Have you ever felt that inner tug-of-war? One part of you wants to be generous, supportive, and kind. The other is gripped by envy, selfishness, or a sudden, sharp word. We all want to be good, but life constantly tests that resolve. What if being a good person wasn't just a vague ideal, but a practical skill you could train? The Stoics believed it was. They gave us a roadmap to navigate our complex social world, showing us why our own well-being is inseparable from the well-being of others. All for one and one for all. What is not useful for the hive is not useful for the bee. Marcus Aurelius' Meditations. The Stoics had a concept called sympathia, the interconnectedness of the cosmos, where everything in the universe is part of something larger. Marcus Aurelius was one of the first authors to articulate the concept of cosmopolitanism, saying that he was a citizen of the world, not just of Rome. The idea that you are like a bee in a hive is a reminder of this perspective. Later in his meditations, the emperor would phrase the idea in reverse. What does not harm the community does not harm the individual. What is bad for you is not necessarily bad for everyone. What is good for you is not always good for everyone. Think of hedge fund managers who make huge bets in the economy. They profit by causing everyone but themselves to fail. Do you want to be like them? A good Stoic understands that proper intentions and the right actions that follow from them naturally bring good to the whole, which is the only good of a wise person. Conversely, the good and wise deeds of the whole are what is good for individuals. A word is not a sparrow. It is better for the feet to slip than the tongue. Diogenes Laertius. This idea that we are all part of a larger whole applies to our every action, and perhaps most powerfully to our words. You can always get up after a fall, but remember that what is said can never be taken back, especially angry and hurtful words, watching others. Furthermore, to cleave to friends, to rejoice in their actions as in our own. This is in accordance with nature. And without this, we would be deprived of virtue, which is strengthened by daily exercise. Seneca, Moral Letters to Lucilius. And it's not just our words that connect us, it's our ability to share in the lives of others. Watching others succeed can be one of the most difficult things, especially if you're not succeeding yourself. With our hunter-gatherer minds, we tend to see life as a zero-sum game. If someone else gets more, it likely means less for us. However, like everything in philosophy, empathy and altruism are a matter of practice. As Seneca noted, one can learn to rejoice in the successes of others and to be saddened by their failures. This is precisely what virtuous people do. They learn to actively help others, even at their own expense, and to push aside jealousy and possessiveness. You can do this too. The selfish reason to be good. He who sins, sins against himself. He who is unjust does evil to himself by making himself evil. Marcus Aurelius' Meditations. But what if this practice of being good to others isn't purely altruistic? What if there's a deeply personal, even selfish, reason to act with integrity? The next time you do something wrong, try to remember how you felt while doing it. Rarely will anyone say, "Wonderful." There's a reason vomit is often found at crime scenes. People believe that when they let themselves lose control or when they get revenge, they will feel a catharsis, but in reality, it makes them physically sick. We experience a version of this feeling too, when we lie, cheat, or act despicably. A split second before you start to gain an unfair advantage, ask yourself, how do I feel? Is it worth the fear that arises because you subconsciously suspect you might get caught? Self-awareness and wrongdoing rarely go together. If you need a selfish reason not to do something wrong, embrace these feelings. They are a powerful deterrent, the highest pleasure. But is there anything more attractive than this? And is it not by this that pleasure deceives? But consider whether magnanimity, nobility, simplicity, benevolence, righteousness are not more attractive. And what is more attractive than prudence itself, when you realize its infallibility and smooth flow in all that concerns the conscious and cognitive power? Marcus Aurelius' Meditations. Just as wrongdoing brings its own kind of suffering, virtue offers a pleasure far greater than any fleeting indulgence. No one would argue that pleasure doesn't bring enjoyment. That's why it's called pleasure, because it's pleasant. However, Marcus Aurelius reminds you today, just as he reminded himself, that these pleasures can hardly compare to virtue. The dopamine rush from sex lasts moments. So does the pride of an achievement and the sincere applause of a crowd. These pleasures are strong, but they fade and leave us wanting more. What lasts longer and is more in our own control? Wisdom, good character, sobriety, and kindness. Set standards and use them. This is how things are judged and weighed when the measures are already prepared. And the business of philosophy consists in examining and establishing the measures, but to use them once they are known. That is the business of a virtuous man. Epictetus, Discourses. So, how do we choose this higher pleasure consistently? How do we make virtue our default? Comes down to a simple, powerful practice. We spend our entire days giving answers and reacting, but rarely do we pause to ask, is this consistent with my beliefs? Or better yet, is this what the person I want to be would do? In life, you need to set standards and then not compromise on them. When you brush your teeth, choose your friends, lose your temper, fall in love, teach your child, or walk your dog. All of these are opportunities. Not like this, I want to do good, that's an excuse. But like this, I will do good right now in this specific situation. Set the standard and stick to it firmly. That's all. Being good is not an accident. It is a choice, repeated over and over, in every interaction, with every word, and in every private thought. It is the conscious decision to be a benefit to the hive, and in doing so, to find our own greatest good. The standards you set today become the person you are tomorrow. If you're ready to continue building that person and explore this philosophy further, subscribe to the channel. Let's set our standards together.